Hey everybody, welcome to another Purple Insider Extra. We are outside of Soldier Field in Chicago. Matthew Coller and Sam Ekstrom here. And we witnessed one of the worst football games that we have ever covered. There were fumbles, there was a punt block, Kirk Cousins threw for under 100 yards, and even it ended hilariously with a touchdown that they didn't even bother kicking the extra point. It was a miserable night for pretty much everyone. Justin Fields struggled, Kirk Cousins struggled, Justin Jefferson did not have the big game that we expected him to have. Dalvin Cook averaged about 3 yards a carry, and Akeem Hicks dominated the Vikings offensive line. But the Vikings came up with just enough plays. In fact, the clutch plays on defense, Sam, to come away with a win. They are back to 500 and they remain in the playoff race. And here's the question. Do we say a win is a win even when it was that hideous? Or should we not do the win is a win thing because they, are still alive in the playoff race?
I think you can say it to a certain extent. It was a tough environment to play in. It was sloppy. It was heavily influenced by the officials. It was extremely chippy. There was a lot of physicality. It was a bizarre football game. One of the ugliest I've seen. And the Vikings have played a lot of ugly games, in the past couple of years, but they usually were balanced out by really good finishes. This didn't have that either. And they kind of did the same kind of junk that they've done in the fourth quarters a lot of times this year, where the offense lacked a killer instinct, the defense gave up a lot of yards. The difference was they tightened up in the red zone, and they did make some of those big plays you were talking about. The Bears just imploded tonight. Is this enough to give me any sense that they're going to go beat the Rams or the Packers? No, but this has been a Jekyll and Hyde team all year.
Yeah.
They've shown a tendency to play ugly games followed by beautiful games where Kirk Cousins gets to move back inside and he's just a different quarterback. And I don't think we can assume that 1 week means anything for the next week. So in that sense, I guess you can just hang your hat and say, hey, the Vikings get to go to bed tonight in the 7th seed with a chance to make a statement against the Rams.
Yeah, I think you walk away not feeling a whole lot different than you felt about this team at any point this year, that you've always felt like they had upsets in them against bad teams, that they could be upset at any time, but you also felt like they could beat any team, and they played down to their competition for the most part. It's just that their competition was really, really low. I mean, Matt Nagy was doing the play calling tonight because their offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, was on the COVID list, along with half of the team for the Chicago Bears. And what we saw was exactly why Chicago Bears fans are talking about wanting Matt Nagy fired. Just bizarre play calls. They were running really effectively to the outsides, and then in key spots would run right into Michael Pierce, who was having a great game tonight. There was a 4th down where they gave Justin Fields no real option outside of one read, and he even broke it down after the game. And that was kind of bizarre as well because it was 4th and 1. They had been running well, and now here we're going to have them roll out. It was a classic why Bears fans are frustrated with Matt Nagy, and from that perspective, the Vikings did come up with clutch plays. They also allowed some drives. Even as poor as the Chicago offense was, they allowed them to move the ball pretty effectively. At one point, they had, I think, 9 more first downs than the Vikings, and they were right there a couple of times. I mean, they're at one throw away from this thing doing the thing that it's done all year, which is just melting down, and instead a foot is out of bounds, so it's not a touchdown on 4th down. And there was sort of razor's edge types of things, that this was far too close to being an upset from. This is truly one of the worst teams in the NFL, and missing their entire secondary. For Justin Jefferson to come home with 4 catches, KJ Osborne a non-factor. I mean, it's not something that you can walk out of here feeling good about and then saying, oh yeah, this team is going to beat the Rams and the Packers. I mean, that is not something you say after tonight's game.
Yeah, it tells you that, okay, even against a rookie quarterback who is atrocious for the most part, you're still going to just play a soft prevent when you're ahead in the 4th quarter and give up all those yards. You're saying that against a practice squad secondary, all they have to do is just play too high and it's going to neutralize you, because that's what we keep hearing against these battered teams, that they can just scheme their way to preventing the Vikings from working the ball downfield. And Mike Zimmer actually had a different tune tonight. He said, sometimes we've got to dink and dunk a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I guess, and that's kind of odd to say that you need to coax Kirk Cousins to do that. But tonight, Kirk just didn't have any throws in him. He was pump faking. He was holding the ball. He was extremely skittish. And this is exactly what we've seen before, where he gets hit early and it affects him the whole game, to the point where Mike Zimmer was basically saying, you are not allowed to throw. We're going to run the ball on first and second down. We might throw on third down. We might not. We might just run it on third down too. We want you to drop back as few times as possible. And as a result, a career low in passing yards for Kirk Cousins. I think he had 27 in the second half.
Which team played Nick Mullins at quarterback tonight? Was it the Cleveland Browns or was it the Minnesota Vikings? I mean, this is how, if you told me Sean Mannion started that game and you showed me the stat line and said, hey, they won with, that's what you'd expect from a backup quarterback. And I think it was very early on that they just decided we don't really trust Kirk tonight with the football because we're afraid that he's going to turn it over or make a mistake. And the other thing is too, look, the offensive line at times has played better this year. This was not one of those times. Akeem Hicks remains one of the most dominant players in the entire NFL. He destroyed Mason Cole and Garrett Bradbury, and they couldn't run or pass when that happened. And this has always been the Achilles heel, that they just have no button to push when the other team is demolishing them inside. And guess what? Aaron Donald is coming to town, and then Kenny Clark is coming to town, and so it's probably not going to get better. I do wonder if they look at the tape and go back to Oli Udoh at guard as they just continue looking for answers. But it was funny that maybe the third or fourth time this year that we've walked out of a game where they won and sort of felt like they lost. I mean, you think the Lions game, even Carolina, where they let them have the big drive, and then here tonight, but still 7-7, and they've got a chance. It reminded me a lot, Sam, of what happened against Jacksonville last year, where they beat the Jaguars and they stayed in the race, and the percentages said they still have a decent chance to make it, but it just didn't feel like it because of who they were as a team. And tonight, this did not feel like, oh yeah, watch out for the Vikings in the playoffs, but you never know. I mean, you just never know where this is going to go.
No, I mean, and Mike Zimmer was preaching attention to detail all week. He had like an intense meeting on Tuesday where he basically insinuated that he chewed the team out. And he cut Rashad Breeland in some kind of statement, because he was acting out, it seems. We haven't gotten a quote on that yet, but all of it pointing toward, this is going to be a disciplined team. It's going to have attention to detail. Not tonight. 7 penalties. They had some blunders on, certainly offense, certainly special teams. Defense was for the most part pretty good, bending a little bit in the second half, but it didn't look like a team that's poised to go beat the Rams and Packers. Now, I think they know that. I think they all know that there is plenty of meat left on the bone, and Mike Zimmer is not going to settle for this, but do they have it in them? I guess they do. But this team is a coin flip, right? I mean, they've beaten winning teams this year, and they've done what they did tonight, which was play down to, I think, a team that was worse than the Detroit Lions.
It now feels also like it's been a while since they beat Green Bay. In the last few weeks, we're talking about bad team after bad team that they've either let stay in the game or did not perform offensively. So that will have to change very quickly. So, of course, we'll be there covering it all, as we always are, for Purple Insider. Make sure you check out the Purple Insider podcast. PurpleInsider.substack.com is where you can get our written work here from Chicago. And it's a little bit of our rap video look, don't you think, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drop a line.
Yeah. No. We'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.